Welcome to Politricks, the show where we strip away the talking points, bypass the spin, and dive straight into the tough conversations about politics that everyone else is trying to avoid. Politics isn't a game, but it's often played like one. On this show, we expose the strategies, question the motives, and break down how the decisions made in back rooms actually impact your daily life. We aren't here to echo party lines or give anyone a free pass. We're here to ask the uncomfortable questions, challenge the conventional wisdom, and have raw, honest debates with the people shaping our world. If you are tired of the usual political theater and ready for some unfiltered truth, you are in the right place. Let's get into it.
Okay, good evening. I hope everybody's had a good day and having a good evening. We always start off being grateful for something, and I always say you should be grateful for something. Just open your eyes, take a look around you. You got friends and your family, and say, hey, right on. I'm glad that you're here. This evening, we got some things that we want to get into here on the Politricks show with my man Yates. I got some questions I want to ask him about this guy, Dr. Phil, and the things that Dr. Phil are doing. We're going to let you know about what the things that he's doing right now for the Trump administration. So anyway, let me go ahead and introduce my brother, my man, Mr. Ronald Yates. Let me hit him up like that. Where you go? Where you go, Mr. Ronald Yates? There you go. No, let me just bring you in. Boom. Sorry about that. I was having a little issue with my technical. Yeah, you know how it is sometimes, and you have those issues technically, and this was one of them for me. What's going on, brother? How you today?
Okay, I'm well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm okay. Actually, I'm okay. I had a pretty good weekend. I got a little photography work in, and that was kind of cool. Yeah, I'm doing all right, man. Family's doing well. How's your family? Family's all good?
Everybody's good, thank you.
I saw that big ass son you got, man. What the hell is he? A football player? Basketball? What the hell is he, man?
Well, he did play football in high school.
Mhm.
Now he's just a big old postman. He's
He-
posted with
He's
letter
a big
carrier.
boy. He's a
Yeah, he
big
is.
boy. I sure wouldn't want
Oh
to run at
yeah,
him in the dark.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Yeah, he's a big boy. All right. I didn't get a chance to see his face. I'm sure he's handsome like his pop, right?
Oh yeah.
All right. I was gonna ask you some questions about this cat here, man. Dr. Phil. So this is what
Hmm.
I've been checking out about Dr. Phil. You see what it says there, that he's promoting a
Yes.
link to Greenland. See what I think he's doing is just promoting a lot of propaganda. You know, it was kind of like the deal with slavery. In order to get everybody on board, the rich people or the slave owners, they had to put out a lot of propaganda about the slaves, like they were bad, they were dirty, all this sort of thing. And this way they can get the American people on their side. So here it is, you got Dr. Phil. He goes over to Greenland and he wants to start a show. And I'm telling you, it's to spread propaganda about this drilling. But I
Hmm.
understand that in Greenland, they got a ban. They got a ban on any type of oil explorations. You can't go over there, drill, baby, drill. So it
Hmm.
just seems like Trump, he just wants to take over. He's just gonna go in there and he's just gonna take it. Look at this guy, man.
Hmm.
Reaching out to my hello Greenland. I was watching the Rachel Maddow show. And I happened to check this out. I was like, wow, look at this guy. He's just gonna go in there and just take it. So is that what we've come to now? We just come to invaders and conquerors? Because he went to Venezuela, he did his thing over there, right? And we still don't know where the money is at.
Hmm.
But they took a lot of oil, and so where's the money for the oil? Is it making his family rich and all that good stuff? So he figured he can go over to Iran and bop, 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 in and out, right? And of course, that's not happening for him. So I think he's keeping Greenland on the side over there so he can put these businesses in there. They got a company in Texas. It's called the Greenland. What are they? Something. What the hell are they called? It's a drilling company, and it's out in Texas. I forget the name of the damn thing. It'll come to me. But they went over to Greenland on a boat with a boat, and had all these tankers on the boat, filled up. All these containers were filled up with drilling equipment, even though they legally do not have permission to go there. You dig what I'm saying? They don't got permission to go there, but they kind of said, F you, we're going anyway. They went over there and dropped all this equipment in Greenland, in the eastern part of Greenland. And then you could see the boat leaving out empty. So they're just going to do it anyway, regardless to what Greenland wants. What do you feel about that, brother?
Well, one, we're not drilling here in this country. One of the things Trump talked about in his second run for office was drill, baby, drill. And we're not even doing that in this country. And in terms of the resources that are the rich resources in Greenland, well, other European countries have tried, particularly the Danes have tried, because there's rare earth minerals also buried under the soil in Greenland. It's just that the thick mantle of ice is so difficult to penetrate that no one thus far has been able to get down to retrieve these minerals. In terms of taking oil or harvesting oil from Greenland, I think that Trump is posturing. I don't know if he's going to just set up drilling locations in Greenland, despite the objections of the government in Denmark. Because I think what that would do, that would put him in direct conflict with NATO, right? That would violate, I would imagine it would violate the NATO charter, amongst other charters, right? And at this point, America has lost a number of trading partners. Can we afford to lose more trading partners, particularly those in Europe? And for Trump, he's fighting this war in Iran. And, if you listen to Trump, which is difficult to do, he said that, well, we don't need their help, but they should help us, right? Well, if you don't need their help, then why are you saying they should help you? You have to be specific in your request. Do you need help or do you not need help? And at this point, what is in it for the European allies to help when he is, in fact, essentially invading one of the European allies or NATO nations like Denmark, right? Or their territory, Greenland. So I think that what Trump does, Trump pushes the envelope to see how much he can get away with, right? The European allies looked the other way on the attack on Venezuela. They looked the other way on the bombing run in Iran over a year ago. They've looked the other way on some of America's aggressive tactics. Well, they're not going to look the other way as it relates to Greenland and getting control of Greenland's resources. There's probably trillions of dollars at stake. And if the Europeans aren't going to benefit from that, why should they let the Americans? So I think that Trump is pushing the envelope. And I think that Dr. Phil is probably one of the people that will be heavily invested in the companies that would harvest whatever resources they can. So Dr. Phil, of course, is looking to line his own pockets. I don't know how well that's going to work out, because I just don't think that the Europeans are going to sit by and allow America to just come plant their flag in Greenland and just say, okay, this is now our territory and we're going to do with it as we please. So that's my take on it.
Well, I could just tell you this, that the leaders of Greenland, they're not taking a backseat to it either. But it just seems like this company is called the Greenland Energy Company, and they're in Texas. That's the name of it. It seems like they already have it set up where they're going to be drilling by the beginning of the year in Greenland.
Right.
Whether they have permission or not. Now, the guy that leads Greenland, he says we're going to send the police, we'll send the military, we're going to stop the barges from coming in and going out, but it just seems like they're just going to do what the hell they want to do, regardless to what we think. What they
Well,
think.
that's what I was saying. That's what I was saying. This will put Trump and the United States in direct conflict with the European allies. And is that something that America can afford? Particularly at a time when you have to keep in mind, from a global perspective, the European allies and America as well have lost prestige, have lost control. If you think about it, a number of African countries, I can name three off the top of my head, received invites to the White House, and all three have refused. They told Trump, if you want to negotiate our resources, then you will come to us. We will not come to you. So I guess the perception of African leaders has changed. They're no longer willing to take a back seat to Washington. They're no longer willing to be summoned to the nation's capital and told and dictated to their foreign policy. So with the Europeans losing control of colonies, former colonies in Africa and Asia, with the rise of China and other countries like Russia, can America afford the loss of the backing of the European allies? Can America go and fight wars unilaterally without the assistance of Europe? And if America decides to go into Greenland and to attempt to take the resources, how far are the Europeans willing to go? Now, let me just state this from a historical perspective. Over 80 years ago, Adolf Hitler marched into Czechoslovakia and annexed Czechoslovakia. Well, the reality is that Hitler's army was not yet prepared for war. If the European allies would have stopped Hitler at Czechoslovakia and attacked Germany, which was part of their charter to protect Europe against aggression from Germany, we probably wouldn't have had the destruction of World War II. This was posturing. And Hitler guessed that the French and the English did not have the stomach for another disastrous war like World War I. And I think that Trump and his administration is basically using that same tactic. Let's see if the Europeans will blink. Let's see if they will allow us to, plant our flag in Greenland. And let's be realistic. If America takes Greenland, what's next? What else will we take? We've taken Venezuela. Trump talked about taking Cuba, and now there's this push, a renewed push to take Greenland. So if we take Greenland, what is next? So I think that the European powers, I think that they are keenly aware of this. And I think that they realize that maybe Trump is posturing. And, this could lead to, Trump said that Kamala Harris would start World War III. Well, now we have a situation where Trump himself could be heading toward World War III.
Most definitely. He seems like he wants to be going in that direction. Did you hear about he went to Turkey? They had a meeting in Turkey right next to Iran. So he talked a lot of nonsense about how he was going to strike Iran and do, the nonsense that he likes to spew out. All right. The tough guy image that he likes to spew out. So on his way back, he didn't come back on Air Force One. He got on another plane and they had him in some sort of container. They were hiding him because of the threat from Iran.
I did hear that. Let me just fix this for a second here. I saw that the press corps that was traveling with him on Air Force One didn't realize that he had been taken off of um, the new Qatari Air Force One and was traveling on another plane. Um, they say that this is security precautions for the president because, of course, Trump has said that the Iranians are seeking to kill him. I haven't seen any evidence to suggest that Iran wants to kill Trump. Now, again, right, there's nothing new under the sun. Do you remember when George W. Bush was president and he said that Saddam Hussein wants to kill my father? This is just a replay of that same old story. And to take it a step further, we're talking about Iran now. Well, about 25 or so years ago, we're talking about Iraq. We're talking about Iraq having a cache of nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons, and that they were prepared to use them against the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, we ended up in a disastrous and costly war. Trillions of dollars spent, hundreds of thousands of lives lost, including American lives, only to find out later for the government to say, oh, the intelligence was faulty. Faulty intelligence? You've killed hundreds of thousands of people. You have nearly decimated one of the oldest civilizations on the planet, Mesopotamia. And now you say, oops. And we're doing the same thing in Iran, only the problem is this time, Iran is actually winning the war. They're winning hearts and minds in the Middle East and other parts of the world. And they have control of the Strait of Hormuz. So they have the potential to make billions of dollars in shipping fees to allow oil tankers to transit through the Strait of Hormuz. So what have we accomplished?
So here it is. Let's sum it up. So we went to Iran, and you got to figure thousands of people have been killed already in Iran. They're dead, right? He said the war would be over in 1, 2, 3. It's already past 6 months, right? Gas prices, he said they were going to go down. Food prices, they were going to go down. The economy was going to be booming. Jobs will be coming back. So we seem to have a pretty high unemployment job rate right now, especially amongst us African Americans. We seem to have the highest unemployment rate going. So I'm just trying to figure out where and when are we supposed to make this America great?
Well, I think that what the slogan actually should be is we're going to make America great for wealthy corporations and the top 1% of earners in this country. But for average working class people, there's not a single thing that they can point to that they can say that Trump promised when he was running for office that he's delivered upon. Well, let me add a caveat. The only thing they will be able to say, and it won't be completely true, is to speak about the border. And you have to understand that the border is really a made-up issue. See, they don't want us to think. They want us to tell us what to think. They want to tell us what issue should be of importance to us. So they created this issue of the border, right? And that we have this horde of people coming up from Central and South America, and that these people are violent, these people are drug dealers, these people are racist, and this comes directly from Trump's own mouth. Well, the reality is, when was the last time you heard the government talk about the $40 trillion in debt that we currently have? When was the last time you heard the government talk about the fact that since the late 1970s, we've lost hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs? When have you heard our government talk about the falling value of the American dollar? They won't talk about those issues. Neither side. Why? because it's unfixable. So what they'll tell you is, hey, don't look over there at rising food prices, rising energy prices. Don't look at the fact that there are American families living in cars that are starving, that can't find jobs, that have lost health care, that have lost simple things like SNAP benefits. Don't pay attention to that. Focus on the border. That's what you
Focus on
need
the
to keep your
pool.
eyes
No.
right.
You got
Focus
to keep your eye on the pool. On
the
big
reflecting pool, right? The reflecting
and
pool,
the ballroom.
the border,
That's what
right?
That's what you did. That's it. The ballroom and
Right,
the reflecting room. That's what it is.
right,
That's what you keep your
right,
eye on.
right. Even don't even look anymore at the Epstein files. Don't
Oh,
bring that up. Don't talk about that, right? Even though it is the law that they have to disclose this information, we're not even talking about it anymore. It was daily. Months ago, the Epstein files was brought up every day. Even Trump was talking about it. When he ran for office, he said, we're going to release everything, unredacted. We're going to let you see what horrible people these Democrats are. Then,
watch and
when
see.
he
Watch
was
and see if they
elected,
don't bury that. You watch and see if
well,
they just got the new AG in, right? And
right,
he was actually Trump lawyer. He lost the
yes,
case. Even though he was Trump
yes,
lawyer, he lost that case. All right. That
hmm
34 accounts, right? He lost that. But now he
hmm
is the AG. Watch and see
hmm
if they don't make that ish disappear. Watch and
Well,
see.
here's the thing. So, one of the reasons that the Republican Party will not declare poor Mitch McConnell dead is because they don't want to face a special election. Can they hold that seat in Kentucky? Down in South Carolina, the untimely death of Lindsey Graham, his sister is finishing out his term. Can she win re-election? So those are two seats that may be vulnerable come the midterms. So they're just going to just keep digging poor Mitch up, even though his body will be decaying. They'll dig him up, put some makeup on him, say, "Oh no, Mitch isn't dead. His eyes are just closed because he's tired." But the reality is, those are two seats that may be vulnerable come November. And this is
Yeah,
something
but
that Trump.
I got a feeling. I got a feeling that the Democrats are going to win it because if you think about it, down in South Carolina, they just went through a whole big thing with the redistricting, and a lot of people, they hit the streets. They were angry about it and they're pissed off about it. So I don't think a Republican has a chance to win, a snowball's chance to win in hell. Honestly, that's just
Well,
my opinion.
well, you have to understand something. Trump is not smart at all. He's not an intelligent individual, but he's a crafty and wicked individual. So he looks at polling numbers, and many people in his administration are looking at polling numbers. So that's why there's talk of having ICE at polling stations. That's why this big, beautiful bill, Trump will not back away from portions of this big, beautiful bill, and this, specifically the Save America Act. So Trump is trying everything he can to reduce or limit mail-in balloting. Areas that are heavily Democratic, of course, you have the redistricting, the gerrymandering, the purging of rolls, right? That is happening right now. In fact, under the Save America Act, the government will have the ability every 30 to 90 days to look at state rolls, voter rolls, and purge them. That is something that Trump is demanding. That and the other piece, let me just say this: the other piece of the $1.8 billion slush fund, well, that's the big piece that everybody focuses on. The piece that's underneath, what Trump really wants, is the fact that the IRS will never be able to prosecute him, his family, his businesses, or those he conducts business with for any sort of tax related irregularities. That's what Trump is really pushing for. So he's getting the support, of course, of many of the American people, those that went into the Capitol, those people that under ordinary circumstances would be called terrorists, insurrectionists. These people are, of course, supporting Trump because they're looking at a cash windfall. But what Trump really wants is that piece of legislation signed that prevents him from being prosecuted by the IRS now and into perpetuity.
Watch and see if you don't get it. Because he used that 1.7 billion as the slush fund, or 8 billion. He used that as a threat. Now the new AG supposedly signed off and said no, you can't do that. But watch they bring it up on another name, under another name, or they'll put it under some other bills and get it passed through.
Well, as I said, Trump is not an intelligent person, but he's crafty, and he knows his people. So if the $1.8 billion slush fund doesn't pass, what Trump will do is point the finger at the Democrats and say, the Democrats are the reason that you're not receiving this money that you so richly deserve. What he won't talk about is the fact that he got it signed off on, that he can conduct his business any way he deems fit, and there will never be any repercussions, right, for him, his family.
His family. Yeah.
Exactly, and those he's conducting business with, right? So now you have Elon Musk that stepped back into the picture, who's of course investing heavily again in Republican districts. Right. Why? Because he's one of those people that, of course, would benefit from no prosecution by the IRS under any circumstances. So you have all these rich people, right, who may be involved in insider trading and other, crimes, financial crimes, who are basically lining up behind Trump to say, yeah, we don't want to be prosecuted. We don't want the IRS conducting audits and investigating us. So if it's going to work for Trump, certainly we're going to support him on that issue.
But down, we were talking about just a minute ago, you were talking about Africa, and then we just came to mind that Russia, they're recruiting a lot of Africans, especially in Nigeria. They're recruiting them to fight the war in where they're fighting
in Ukraine.
In Ukraine. And now you got a lot of African soldiers that are fighting the war in Ukraine. That's ludicrous to me, man. Well, but they're lying. They're lying to these soldiers now. They're not telling them right off the bat you're going to be put on the front line. They make sure that they do the same thing that other people do. They go to the impoverished people and the people that actually need the money, and they tell them, well, look, you're not going to be on the front line. You're just going to be working in supply in the back or headquarters. And these cats actually ended up on the front line. Damn shame.
Well, that's an important piece, right? Because this war that has been going on in Ukraine, actually since 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea, right, which is part of Ukraine. So this war now is in its 12th year. And what you see is more people being drawn into the war. Now, you mentioned Africans. Well, the other day I saw where more North Korean soldiers and more missile batteries are being deployed to Russia, right? So this war that started out between Russia and Ukraine has now drawn in Africans, has now drawn in North Koreans. And right now, what we have is a lack of stability in Europe, right? The European allies want to support Ukraine. They'd like to see America investing more war material and support to Zelensky and the Ukrainian war effort. Why? Because the Europeans, well, they're, within missile shot of Russia.
Mhm.
And of course, they're looking for a buffer zone between them and the Russians, which of course was the United States. The United States has said, hey, we will come in to defend Western Europe against aggression from Russia. Well, now you have a situation where we have a president in this country that is extremely friendly with Vladimir Putin. And when he was handing out his tariffs like candy, Russia was never a victim, was never victimized with the tariffs. Russia was basically exempt. Now it is reported that Russia is giving information to Iran on the location of American troops and installations throughout the region. And yet Trump really is saying nothing to Vladimir Putin. It's only recent that he's somewhat stood up to Netanyahu. And now this is just my own opinion. I think that one of the main reasons that we are so heavily invested in this war in Iran, I think that the Israeli Mossad, their intelligence agency, has compromising information on Trump. I think that Putin has some compromising information on Trump as well, so that Trump is basically not trying to offer any resistance to Russia, or certainly none to Israel. Israel has said for some time, going back years, that they're in control of the United States. It's not the other way around. And, you see it. Netanyahu came here just last week. They have to keep in mind there are warrants out for the arrest of Netanyahu. And when he came into the United States, right, it was Trump that said he's not going to be arrested here in violation of international law. So Trump is protecting Netanyahu, and he's looking the other way on Vladimir Putin. And I think it's all based on the fact that there's compromising information, probably photos, videos, who knows, showing Trump in a very unflattering position. So he's got to go along in order to insulate himself from this information coming out.
You think maybe he may have some more information about the Epstein's files? You think there's some stuff that maybe he can or Putin that would make a difference in the Epstein's case?
Well, here's the thing. It is believed that Jeffrey Epstein, was a Mossad agent. His father was Mossad. And if you look at the history of Jeffrey Epstein was a school teacher. Now, how does a school teacher go from being someone who's a moderately paid school teacher to having the most expensive piece of real estate in Manhattan, to having his own private island? Who funded that? Jeffrey Epstein, of course, built himself as basically a financial guru, right? But where did he get this training and experience in finance? The man was a school teacher. And because of his supposed acumen in investments, a lot of rich and powerful people invested with him. And of course, anytime there's money, of course, that is a trap for wealthy people who are always looking to increase their wealth. One of those people was Donald Trump. Another one was Bill Clinton, right? It is now believed that Monica Lewinsky was a setup. That Monica Lewinsky may have been, persuaded a plant by the Israeli government. Because who keeps a dress that has so-called semen stains on it? Who the hell wants that? What woman in her right mind is going to hold on to that?
I don't see money for DNA and evidence.
Well, there you go. There you go. And she held on to that dress, blackmail, right? So, a lot of wealthy and powerful people went to went to Epstein Island. And of course, there are cameras, just like in P. Diddy's house, right? A lot of people
Mm.
went there thinking they were, in these private rooms, not so private. Do you remember when they arrested Pete, or before they arrested P. Diddy? They went and invaded his house or raided his house in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
What do you suppose they were looking for? What wealthy and powerful people were at Diddy's house? They were looking for tapes. They were looking for evidence that they could destroy so that wealthy and powerful people would not be compromised. And it's the same thing, situation with Epstein. Epstein was more than likely a Mossad agent financed by Mossad, put into this position where they could have leverage over the American government. And God knows who has more leverage over our government than Benjamin Netanyahu.
Putin?
Well, Putin may be not even a close second, because Netanyahu is basically dictating American policy from Jerusalem. There are some states right now where they're saying it is illegal to speak out against Israel. The other day, Netanyahu said to the countries around the world, you have to take action against anti-Semitism. Not against racism, not against xenophobia, not against homophobia, not against genocide, but against anti-Semitism. And America is one of those countries that is heeding the call and is making it extremely difficult to speak out against Israel. Keep in mind now, Israel is the only country on the planet that may be given the privilege to combine their military forces with the United States.
How about that? How about that? Now,
How
if
about
they
that,
do
right?
that, who's going to be in charge? I mean,
Well-
American soldiers, are they going to have to take orders from the Israeli soldiers?
Well, who's in charge now?
The IDF? Yeah,
Who's in charge now?
I'm supposing it's our people that are in charge.
No. Israel is in charge, right? These wars that we have been fighting in what's called the Middle East, these wars have been at the direction and the behest of Israel. There was no reason for the United States to invade Iraq after 9/11 because there was no evidence.
We're the proxies, right?
We more like the patsies, because we're paying for the war, right? We're funding Israel, their economy. We're giving them war materials. We're giving them the best American technology, military technology. We're providing them with humanitarian aid so that education is free in Israel, healthcare is free in Israel. It's not here in this country. And we're committing American soldiers, airmen, Navy, and Marine forces to the region. I think maybe 18 American service members have been killed. How many Israelis have been killed fighting Iran? And Netanyahu has said
they haven't gotten involved in it. This is only America. Israel hadn't put any boots on the ground, or I don't even think.
And they said they won't.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they won't. Iran said, "Oh, I'm sorry." Netanyahu has said, if America puts boots on the ground, Israel will not be involved. It'll be America.
Well, which it seems to be America anyway.
But something.
Nobody wants to get involved in this nonsense except for Trump. Yeah, I guess
here's the thing:
some way to make some money off of this or something.
Well, yeah, war is big business. But here's the thing: so if the forces are combined, America and Israel could say, "Well, we're not going to get involved in this." But what happens if you put Israeli soldiers in American uniforms. Can you tell who's who?
Oh, hell no. Nope.
So
Nope. You
maybe
can't.
that is the long-term plan for Israeli soldiers to dress up as Americans to get into Iran and to say it's America. It's not us. We're not involved in this. This is America. But all the time, it is Israeli soldiers dressed as Americans, and you can't tell.
Look, all I know right now, man, is I'm tired of paying these high ass gas prices because I have to use the premium. I got to use the top, to utilize in my vehicle. And I'm gonna tell you,
Mhm.
look, the other day I went to the pump. I'm telling you, it cost me $100 plus to fill
Mhm.
my vehicle. That's
Mhm.
ridiculous, man. I mean, that's absolutely
Mhm.
ridiculous, man. So that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of going to the grocery store and the little things like a box of cereal that used to cost $5 or less is like $8 for a box of cereal, man.
Mhm.
So these are
Mhm.
the things that I'm tired of. And this is a lot of the profiting going to these big corporations, man.
Mhm.
That's what's being allowed to happen here is that these large corporations are they're in their gouging. Because if you check their record, they're in record profit. They're making record profit amount of money. They're going crazy with the amount of money that they're making. But
Well,
they're
let's
making
go
all this
back.
money off us.
Well, let's go back to the George W. Bush administration. If you go back and you look at the members of George W. Bush's cabinet, how many of them came from financial services sector? If you remember the Secretary of Treasury, before he was the Treasury Secretary, he was the CEO of Goldman Sachs. And many of the people in that under him came directly from Goldman Sachs. So during that time when George W. Bush was president, if you called the White House, they would answer the phone, Goldman Sachs. Because let's be realistic, they were the ones setting the economic policy.
Mhm.
And since that time, nothing has changed. All of these people have come from corporate America, and they come to Washington with one thing in mind: to make money, to increase profits for corporations. If you go back and you look as far back as
Reagan.
George
Reagan.
Reagan, and definitely
Yeah.
George H.W. Bush's
Mhm.
his cabinet, Dick Cheney, right, or George W. Bush. Dick Cheney came from Halliburton. Rumsfeld was once the CEO of the company that produced Splenda, a known carcinogen. But because of his ties to Washington, it managed to get through the FDA approval. So, all of these people, they come to Washington, they leave, they become CEOs, they come back to Washington, they negotiate deals for their company to make millions of dollars, billions of dollars. How much money did Halliburton make alone from just the second Gulf War? Just think
I
about what
couldn't
they were
tell
in
you.
charge of. Billions. They had the contract to clean uniforms. They had the contract to provide fuel, to provide
Mhm.
food. All of this was
The
Halliburton.
hardware as well. Yeah.
Everything, right?
They
This was the
were
most
charging like
corporate war we ever
$10,
fought.
like $10 for a nail. That's what they were
Right,
charging the government. $10 per
right,
nail. This is
right,
ridiculous, man.
right.
Yeah.
And this is Dick
And they
Cheney,
were getting
the
away with it.
vice,
Yeah, yeah.
and this is the vice president. His corporation that he was the CEO of is charging the government that he is now the second in command of $10 for a nail. So this is what is happening in this country. And that's why they tell you to look at the border. Look at the immigration problem. Don't look at the corporate takeover of America. Don't look at that. Don't focus on that. If you go to any stadium in this country, when we grew up, these stadiums were named after people or locations. Now,
Yeah,
every
not enough.
one of them is named after corporation. And on every uniform, football, baseball, basketball, soccer, all of the major sporting um, organizations, there's a corporate logo somewhere in that uniform.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is controlled by corporations, but we are told to look the other way, to look at the border. We're told, listen, your problem is not us, the government. Your problem is the guy who lives across the street, who speaks a different language, whose skin is a little darker, who might make $10 more than you. That's your enemy. That's why the government, well, that's why the government is so heavily invested in division. If you think about it, in the 1960s, we had the labor movement. We had the movement for civil rights. We had the movements for women's rights. We had the movement Puerto Rican independence. All of these organizations and these movements were anti-government. What happened to these movements? Why aren't they protesting anymore? Because the government silenced them. And now, instead of fighting against the government, we're fighting against each other.
All right. Well, don't forget now. I got to put this up again since he asked me to. So just for those people, if they want to know, I don't want anybody to forget again. They got the march that's coming up soon. So I think they still have some seats. You can plug in. I'm probably going to be on the bus. I gotta have my voice. Make that, and I want to keep my voice. I don't want anybody else to have my voice and my say. Like seems like we're having here in America. Anyway, we're not able to have freedom of speech anymore. You can't say anything. Everything you say, you can be arrested for. I feel like we're living in a damn movie. One of those. What's that movie? RoboCop. Remember that?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
The corporation was in charge of the entire city, the police department, all. Well, I'm kind of feeling like that, especially with the ICE agents out in the street. To me, they're more like stormtroopers. You see what they did to the Haitians? Today, I think today or yesterday, they fitted them for ankle bracelets. So now they had to be tracked. They had to go in to this facility to get an ankle bracelet so they can be tracked. What the hell is that, man?
Well, again, this is part of the distraction, right? You know, Trump said that he was going to arrest the worst of the worst. Many of the people that are being detained by ICE are people who are here, who were under the temporary protective status bill that was signed by the Biden administration. Well, these folks who are law abiding, these people go to their court appointed meetings or hearings and are arrested as they leave the hearing. They're following exactly what they're supposed to do. They're summoned to court. They show up in court only to walk outside to be arrested, to be pounced on by ICE agents. And they are separated from their families, put into these holding facilities, some of the worst conditions.
Concentration camps.
Essentially, yes. Like alligator Alcatraz. And these people are here legally, right? We're not arresting criminals. We're arresting people who are simply following the law. And now I saw something the other day. There was an ardent Trump support. I mean, this guy supported Trump's stance on the border, rounding people up. But one of the people that was rounded up was his wife, who was here, on a temporary protective status as well. Now she is in ICE custody, and he's talking about how these people are stormtroopers. See, it doesn't matter till it affects me.
That's right.
I don't really care about your family and your situation as long as it doesn't affect me. And now it is his wife who is being detained, and he doesn't know if his wife will ever be released, if she'll be deported.
All I can say is what goes around comes around, and God don't like ugly. That's what I can say. God don't like ugly. So,
there's two things.
These guys, they're gonna have to eventually. They're gonna pay for the things they did with the killing of people. They've killed a lot of people. They've hurt a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
incarcerated a lot of people, and people that were actual legal citizens that were here legally. It just seems like they just didn't care. They just came in with
Mm-hmm.
the storm. They're coming in with the stormtrooper attitude, throwing you on the ground, pulling you out of your car, and you know, and even some cases putting a gun to your head and boom.
Mm-hmm. You know, there's two two people I like to mention, right? At this point, many of us, most of us around the nation are familiar with the tragedy surrounding Nolan Wells.
Wow.
Um, but there are two young ladies that I think we need to at least talk about. There's a young lady, Tania Miller. She's from Michigan. She was down in Miami, and she was found in Gwen Cherry Park.
Mm.
The police are saying it was a suicide, but there is a lot of, I guess, circumstantial evidence that suggests otherwise, that she was actually killed. And her family right now has hired an attorney, and they have an independent investigation. So I like to send thoughts and prayers to the family of Tania Miller in Michigan. And the other
Right.
young lady, her name is Tasia or Tasha Fortune. 29 years old, lived in Jackson, Mississippi. Well, she disappeared August 3rd of this year. Her body was found 3, 4 days later, and she'd been shot in the head and hung from a tree in Jackson, Mississippi. She was hung so high that they had to take a fire department ladder truck to bring her body down after being there for 3 to 4 days. Of course, I think an ex-boyfriend was questioned in regard to her disappearance. But how can one man, after you shoot someone in the head, now take this woman who's now dead weight and hoist her body up so high that it took a fire department ladder truck to bring her down? So this is what is happening across this country. Young black men and women are disappearing under mysterious circumstances. And,
Mm.
I would like to think that, we can vote out prejudice, that we can vote out some of this more extreme behavior or behaviors. But the reality is we can't. I think that, well, I know that unfortunately in America, the only thing that America seems to understand is equal force.
Violence is violence. That's
Right,
what they
right.
understand. They understand violence.
Exactly.
They
Exactly.
understand.
And it's sad, but it's the reality.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
would have
man.
invaded North Korea a long time ago if we did not believe North Korea had possession of nuclear weapons. We would have
Hmm.
invaded the Soviet Union if they did not have the nuclear deterrent.
But
I
Patton
mean,
said back in the day when during I guess it's World War II, when the Russians came in, they ended up taking Berlin or East Russia, whatever, East
when they
Germany.
divided East and West Berlin, yes.
Right, right. And Patton said we should just go on in there and take Russia too. It's a good opportunity.
Well, there was several, um, not just Patton, there were several who thought that, right? That we should have invaded the Soviet Union. But I think that the powers that be had greater plans. You know, they foresaw the Cold War. How much money was made during the Cold War in weapons production? Remember, we had an arms race against the Soviet Union. How much money did the arms makers, you know, receive during that time of the Cold War? Constant new technology, new weapons, right? Constant. So much money was being funneled into defense to this day. Just the other day, the Secretary of War, Mr. Pete, I'm not drunk Hegseth, went before Congress, and I think he got an appropriation of $1.15 trillion to replenish the stockpile of missiles that we've squandered in Iran, and to continue this war. So we have been, this massive arms buildup has been going on since the 50s, unabated. And here we are, 70 years later, and we're still doing it. Trump said that, hey, I can't provide preschool, I can't provide healthcare, I can't provide SNAP benefits because I'm fighting a war. So that means all of you folks that are hungry, all of you folks that don't have a roof over your head, all you folks that have lost your healthcare, sorry, but we can't do both. And what's more important to me is fighting the war than the lives of American people that are suffering.
Or the reflection pool. Don't
Yes.
forget about the pool.
Mhm.
So look here, we're about at the end of this show, and we're gonna pick it up next week because it's always some ish to talk about. Pete Hegseth,
Mhm.
his own mother don't particularly care for him. That's a damn shame when your mama don't like you.
Well, you know what? I don't think Trump's family was too happy with him either. His mother said he was an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're gonna say Hotep and peace, and
Hotep.
we're gonna be out of here. See you guys next week, and thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget we have Mental Health Mondays on Monday. How about that? Politricks is what we're doing right now. That's Tuesday. Now Connie, she's Nurse Connie. She'll flow in and out on Wednesday. Well, I'll let you know when she's gonna be around. And don't forget about Diane Butt. She has a hell of a show, especially for you young ladies that are somewhat spiritual. That would be the Daughters of the Divine Joy. All right, so just tune on into us. Check us out if you like us. Give us a little subscriber. Hit the subscriber button. We're not like the other channels. We're not charging you to subscribe. So, and if you have any content that you would like to hear about, or any shows that maybe you like to bring up, you can always leave us a comment. We'll address it. And thank you, Linda, for tuning in. All right, brother, we're out.
All right, Hotep. Peace.